Live updates. Trump and Putin begin talks on possible deal to end Russia-Ukraine war. So here's the lead up to this, okay? Russia invaded Ukraine. Some people say that Ukraine invaded Russia. Really, we don't know what the truth is, to be honest with you. I wasn't there, and I only believe what I see. I believe half of what I see and none of what I hear. That means I'm wise. Anyway, here we have some peace talks in which we have bizarrely invited the leader of an antagonistic nation onto our territory, security jets and all, over here into Alaska, a part of the country that Putin has kind of suggested belongs to Russia. Seems like it's going good. So far, so good. That's great. There he is, in America. It's the invasion force. Yeah, no kidding. Also, weirdly, in the lead up to this, Trump multiple times said that he and Putin would be meeting in Russia. So I don't know who he's been listening to, but Can somebody find that for me? There's like multiple gaffes. Also, I don't have this muted. I do have it muted. I'm sorry, I'm stupid.
No, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday.
You mentioned your upcoming meeting with President Putin. Can you tell us what you hope to get out of that and whether you'll consider inviting President Zelensky to join?
So you have to understand, this is a war that should have never happened. This is a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president. It would have never happened. It was the apple of his eye. I got along very well with President Putin. But if you look, under President Bush, they took a lot of territory. Under President Obama, they took a lot of territory. Under Biden, they essentially took the whole thing. It's just a question of time. Under Trump, you know what they took? Nothing. I was the one that said, you can't build your pipeline. That was half built. I came in, I stopped the pipeline. It's called Nord Stream 2. Nobody knows that, Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2. You might have not even heard it. Biggest pipeline in the world. I stopped it. I was not a friend of Russia, but I got along well with Putin. It's always good to get along with other countries if possible, but that doesn't mean you roll over like Biden did. Biden came in and he immediately approved the pipeline. I couldn't believe it. Then they say Trump wasn't tough on Russia. I wasn't tough. I was the toughest. Putin said, if you're not tough, I would hate like hell to see you. I stopped the biggest economic development job, the biggest job that Russia had ever built. I stopped.
It's so humiliating that absolutely everyone in media knows that his brain is melted, but nobody's willing to challenge him or question him on anything at any time because they're afraid of punitive legal retaliation, even though they are 100% guaranteed to win it. Like Paramount dropped a settling on the lawsuit, even though they were going to win it because they wanted approval for the merger. But what about CNN? I mean, there are plenty of news outlets out there that are not currently looking for approval from the federal government for a merger.
It was dead. And this low IQ president came in and he let them build a pipeline and supply oil and gas all over Europe, So this is really a feel-out meeting a little bit. And President Putin invited me to get involved. He wants to get involved. I believe he wants to get it over with. Now, I've said that a few times, and I've been disappointed because I'd have a great call with him, and then missiles would be lobbed into Kiev or some other place. And
I genuinely don't get it. Are they cowards? Yes. Yeah, no. Yeah, 100%.
You'd have 60 people laying on a road dying. I said, that's cold. That's cold. But it's a violent war. 5,000 to 7,000 people a week are dying. And there's nobody from here. They're all Russian and Ukrainian people, and some people from the cities, much smaller number, but still, those missiles do damage and they kill a lot of people, but mostly soldiers. And they're young soldiers, although in the case of Ukraine, they're getting much older. They're drafting 60-year-olds now. It's a
as opposed to Russia, who's okay.
Terrible thing to witness, and I think I have an obligation. Look, this is Joe Biden's war. This is not my war. I made a deal with NATO a month ago. You covered it very accurately, actually. We don't pay anything anymore. We're not paying anything. They are buying things from us, and NATO is paying us. I got it raised from 2% of GDP to 5%. and they're paying us for everything that we send. We're not paying. But Biden approved $350 billion. Europe has spent $100 billion. The money that's been spent and the death is incredible. It's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war. You got to end it. And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened. You know, we had a discussion about it one time, and we never had that discussion again. Would have never happened. And when the election was rigged, and then Biden took office, which was barely took office, the auto pen took office, bad things started happening. Bad things, stupid things were said, and it ended up in a war. And you know, and I don't believe this will happen anymore because I have that pretty well covered. This could end up in a third world war. This could have been a third world war. I don't think that's going to happen now. But I thought it was very respectful that the president of Russia is coming to our country as opposed to us going to his country or even a third-party place. But I think we'll have constructive conversation.
I appreciate Trump acknowledging that he's on Russia's side by saying that America is not a third-party country.
Then after that meeting, immediately, maybe as I'm flying out, maybe as I'm leaving the room, I'll be calling the European leaders who I get along with very well. And, you know, I have a great relationship, I think, with all of them. And I get along with Zelensky, but, you know, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened, wouldn't have happened. But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap because there'll be some land swap.
This shit is incomprehensible. Yeah. I really do think that, to a large extent, the MAGA movement and like the cult of personality around Trump relies on the majority of his audience not listening to him, you know? Like, they get the little sound bites and they get him doing the double jerk-off dance and everything, but, like, listening to him for just a minute, like, 1 minute, and it's like, holy shit, like, he did not sound like this back in the 2016 primaries. It feels slow to us because we've been watching him the whole time, but you know, he really has, like, mentally degraded. He sounded better 8 months ago. I agree. He has been consistently sounding worse, you know? Would you support voting requiring a literacy test? Is there a non-racist way we could implement it? Follow up. Could it be racist but against white people? To vote, you should have to draw a clock. That's not a bad idea. Okay, what if you had to do a literacy test, one of them in standard English, and then one of them in Jive, and only people who can do both get to vote? See, because black people can code switch, but white people can't. I think that would work. I think we've got something here. Yeah, white boys with the sauce could pass as well. They'll get up there soon.
Going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also,
what is this?
Mr. Putin, did you underestimate Ukraine? President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
Nah, that's good. That's a good bit. It's good. It's a good bit. That's good. What a wacky guy. Oh man.
also some bad stuff for both. So there's good and there's bad. But it's very complex because you have lines that are very uneven. And there'll be some swapping. There'll be some changes in land. And the word that they will use is, they make changes. We're going to change the lines, the battle lines. Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine. But they've taken some very prime territory. They've taken largely ocean, in real estate we call it oceanfront property. That's always the most valuable property. If you're in a lake, a river, or an ocean, it's always the best property. Well, Ukraine, a lot of people don't know that Ukraine was largely 1,000 miles of ocean. That's gone. Other than one small area, Odessa. It's a small area. There's just a little bit of water left. So I'm going to go and see the parameters. Now, I may leave and say, good luck, and that'll be the end. I may say this is not going to be settled. I mean, there are those that believe that Putin wanted all of Ukraine. I happen to be one of them, by the way. I think if it weren't for me, he would not be even talking to anybody else right now. But I'm going to meet with him. We're going to see what the parameters are. I'm then going to call up President Zelensky and the European leaders right after the meeting, yeah. And I'm going to tell them what kind of a deal. I'm not going to make a deal. It's not up to me to make a deal. I think a deal should be made for both. I think Russia has to get back into building their country. It's a massive country. I think they have 11 time zones, if you can believe it. It's a massive, it's by far, from the standpoint of land, it's by far the largest.
Nobody's talking about this. That's something they don't want you to know. Only bigly intellects such as myself. Oh my God.
They have tremendous potential in Russia to do well. They're not doing well. Their economy is not doing well right now because it's been very well disturbed by this. It doesn't help when the President of the United States tells their largest or second largest oil buyer that we're putting a 50% tariff on you if you buy oil from Russia. That was a big blow. And then they say, gee, he wasn't so tough. Nobody else would have done that. And I haven't stopped there. I mean, look, I was all set to do things far bigger than that, but I got a call that they'd like to meet, and I'm going to see what they want to meet about. I'd like to see a ceasefire. I'd like to see the best deal that could be made for both parties. It takes two to tango, right? So ultimately, I'll have a meeting next week. I had a great relationship with him, considering the fact that, I was not nice to him because of the pipeline. I ended the pipeline. I also gave the javelins. Do you ever hear of a javelin? Javelin is called a tank buster. They say that
it's very big. Now, from the perspective of a tank, it's very big.
Obama gave them sheets and I gave them javelins. If it weren't for me, all those tanks that were destroyed at the first days of the war because the tanks got stuck in the mud, some commander made a better they would have been in Kiev in 4 hours. Going down the highway. But a Russian general made a brilliant decision to go through the farmland instead. And they just had torrential rains, and the rains were so bad, and it was mud, and those tanks got stuck in the mud. I don't know who that general is, but knowing Vladimir, he's probably not around any longer because all those tanks were stuck in the mud, and they went along with the javelins. I gave them the javelins. You know that, right? I gave them javelins. They gave them sheets. But I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders.
We really do have the most cucked media in the world. I genuinely feel like in basically every other country that is even remotely democratic, there would be more pushback to this kind of like drawling nonsense speech, which is all he ever gives. It's literally every single day, every single event. He talks like this, and not a single journalist ever says, no, you're just wrong. Like follow-up question, are you stupid? I feel like you could go to Greece, you could go to Hungary, you could go to Italy, and there would be more of a punishment for incompetence than this. Like we are uniquely cucked. All the money in the world, and all it did was make us more subservient, more compliant. I feel like I'm an extra on the Naked Gun. It does feel like a joke. Like fundamentally, the problem with democracy is that you're trusting the population to be capable of, at least to some extent, making good decisions and determinations about the character of the people they're electing, right? Like it's very, very difficult to even argue for democracy in concept if a significant portion of the population looks at something like this and goes, yeah, that's okay. Like at that point, the democracy just doesn't work like even as a first concept. You would just go, well, like, why would you ever, It'd be like arguing that the life of a pet would be best if it could eat whatever it wanted, and every day would just die after a day because it would eat all the flowers or whatever. But the people are retarded problem? Yeah, to an extent. To an extent. It is a weird kind of like it is a weird kind of democratic incompetence though, because historically, at least my understanding, historically, when democracy fails, it's because people vote for people that are evil, right? But in this case, it's not really the evil that's the issue, because there have been presidents that are more morally questionable than Trump. Maybe not as consequentially bad at this point with the US aid cuts and everything, but in terms of like people being obviously evil, right? I don't know, you could argue Jackson or to an extent Nixon. But I mean, Bush, certainly, in his second term. But in terms of just sheer incompetence, I don't know. How do you not look at this and go, like, this guy can't be trusted with anything? This guy can't be trusted with his own bedpan.
And also to President Zelensky, I think out of respect, I'll call him first. And then I'll call them after. And I may say, lots of luck, keep fighting. Or I may say we can make a deal.
If not,
I will tell you this. I've seen a poll coming out of Ukraine. 88% of the people would like to see a deal made.
Curious.
And if you go back 3 years, everybody was gung-ho for war. You know, everybody's gung-ho for war until you have it. It's an amazing thing. I had it with a couple of countries where I couldn't get a deal done with one particular country. And I just couldn't. The guy's great. He's a friend of mine. Great. Good leader, tough as hell. I couldn't get the deal done, and then he went into war for a short period of time. You know where I'm talking about. First term. And it was nasty. Guys being killed all over the place. And he went through 1 week of war, and I was able to get the deal done. He said, this is nasty. So look, let's just do this. Let's do this. It's going to be a big thing. We're going to Russia. That's going to be a big deal. What happens, happens. I'll let you know what happens. You'll be the first to know. I'll be calling the European leaders. I'm going with totally, I mean, we have a lot of talks. They're great people. They're great leaders, actually, and they want to get back. Honestly, as one of them said, I've OD'd on trying to settle Ukraine. They've OD'd, meaning they've overdosed on the settlement of Ukraine. Not a nice expression, but boy, is it accurate. They're tired of it. They want to get back to spending money on their countries. You know, Biden gave them $350 billion. Europe gave $100 billion. It should be much more than that. Shouldn't have been that kind of, they should have had equalization, but they didn't. But you know what? Still a lot of money. They want to get back to building their own countries. They really want it resolved. My relationship with the European leaders, as you saw, is extremely good. It's perfect. It's beautiful. Wait. And we're going to try. I'll be in touch with them. I have 5 of them call me. You think it's easy? There are a lot of European leaders, but they rely on me. Very much rely on me. If it wasn't,
I guess it's not really just American media, right? It's like everyone is a huge pussy when it comes to Trump, because there have been multiple instances now where people in the European political community definitely should have just talked him, like read him the riot act, right? Like not just Starmer, who is a huge pussy, but like basically every world leader has been capitulating nonstop. It's his second term, man. He's ancient, and everyone knows how this is going to go down, right? They are not building a Fourth Reich. Maybe we fall to some kind of like indefinite Palantir surveillance state, but the Trump mandate is limited by his lifespan or by his cognitive abilities. I mean, he can't keep going forever, you know? Why are you cementing your legacy as the guy who just kept rolling your eyes and going along with it?
for me, this thing would never get solved until the last person breathing is dead.
Would you talk to them before?
Mr. President,
I'm talking to him right now.
President.
So I'm talking to the European leaders. I'll be talking to President Zelensky. I'm going to get everybody's ideas. I go into that thing fully loaded right up there, and we're going to see what happens. Now, I think one of two things is going to happen. It's going to be a good meeting, and we'll go a step further. We'll get it done. I'd like to see a ceasefire very, very quickly. Very quick. I'd like to see it immediately, but I'd like to see it very quickly. And we're going to be dealing with the European leaders, and we're going to be dealing with President Zelensky, and hopefully we're going to have a great success.
Thank you, Hindustan Times. Thank you, thank you. Voice of the nation since 1924. That's pretty early. That's pretty early. Are you guys there yet? Jesus fucking Christ, these people are never gonna talk. It's two old men. Both getting their fucking hemorrhoid cream applied or something. Crazy how they're more willing to ask hard questions of Putin than of Trump. Yeah, of course, because, you know, Putin doesn't really have any power over them. The German press is equally cucked. Just remember the G7 summit where Schultz dodged a question by a foreign journalist because she didn't use perfect grammar and all the other German journalists laughed, so it's not just the US. I don't think German press is anywhere near as cucked as American press. I don't even think it's comparable, okay? I've seen DW talks. I've seen how they interview their prospective leaders, and I know they're still complicit, but we are on another fucking level. On Gaza, they are more cucked? Maybe. Yeah, on Gaza, maybe they're more cucked. Maybe they're equally cucked. Maybe they're equally cucked. Dude, they're just never fucking talking, man. Pursuing peace. Was media ever good? Not good, but it definitely used to be the case that the media was willing to critically investigate politicians a lot more aggressively. But they've always had like issues they were told to shut the fuck up on, right? Like Vietnam, the Iraq War, McCarthyism. There were issues where they were basically made to fall in line, but eventually, inevitably, the cracks began to show, right? Initially, you got like video reporting out of Vietnam, which the government hated because it made the war look bad. And there was media complicity, but like it kind of seeped through more and more over time. The war was increasingly unpopular. But I have never seen this kind of media complicity when it comes to the overwhelming incompetence of our president, you know? And I mean that. Like, the media was always willing to be complicit when our president was being evil. When Nixon and Kissinger were illegally bombing, you know, Laos and Cambodia, when they were fucking up the Vietnam War, these were evil, and also largely incompetent, ineffective acts, and the press was complicit to a large extent. But there's a big difference between that kind of incompetence and Trump just being a blithering idiot 24/7 up at the podium. Like, there's just a difference there. They feel different. There is a difference because Nixon and Kissinger could still go up to a microphone and coherently articulate what they were doing, even if they were evil and lying. Also, yeah, investigative journalism is dead. Who will be at the big podium in the middle? The shadow president.